my name is Jason Courtemanche, and welcome to Mastering Autodesk Vault, Setup and Optimization. So in Vault, we can create part numbering schemes, and the way that we can do that is just go to Tools, Administration, Vault Settings, and then we'll come over to Behaviors and come down to Numbering, and we'll click Define. And so your Vault might already have some custom numbering schemes in here. Right now I'm not using these, so I'm just going to delete them. Okay. So this is how it'll look like if your Vault does not have any numbering schemes. And we'll just click New. And we have to give it a name, so we'll just call it CAD. The most important thing about numbering schemes is to kind of pre-plan things out. And the first thing we have to decide is, do we want smart numbers or do we want essentially an automated dumb number? And what I mean by a smart number, I mean that a prefix or some characteristic of the part number or the file name essentially has meaning, whereas, we'll see here, we'll just first do auto number. It doesn't matter what we call this first thing. The most important is that we decide on how long the length is, and essentially this is going to get us it's going to auto-generate file names starting at 0 and working its way up. And so this is the most basic numbering scheme that we can have. One thing to note about numbering schemes is that once you create them, I can come back here and change my mind and let's say I go to 5 to 6. So there's some things at this point, because I haven't used this numbering scheme, I can change my mind, I can change the settings. As soon as I use the numbering scheme for the first time, at that point, a lot of the edited features are not going to be available. So now that we have this basic numbering scheme set up, let's go demo it. So if we go to Inventor or AutoCAD and we create a new file, we will see the numbering. If we have an active numbering scheme, the way that we see it is the first time I click Save from AutoCAD or Inventor. So in this case, by me clicking Save, we can see that it auto-generated our first number. And I'll click Save, and now that we've used that particular numbering scheme, we'll check it into Vault. But as soon as I click Save, I've used the number, whether I check it into Vault or not. As soon as I add a second numbering scheme, we will see that we'll get a drop-down menu that will let us choose between. We'll make a smart CAD number. And so this one will have, let's say, we'll have a predefined list. So we'll call this code. So I can basically make a code and I can make a description for these things. Let's say assembly, or let's say, what do I want? It doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want, but the way that smart numbers work is that we have to assign a meaning to them. And we have to make sure that one of these is the default. And then we can basically use these fields, whether it's an auto-generated number or delimiter. So in this case, if I want a dash or a character, so we're going to get a predefined list, we're going to get a dash, and then let's just add an auto number. And we'll say we want 4. And so we see a little preview here. We're going to get a drop down, the delimiter, and then it's going to auto number. I'll click OK. And we'll go back to Inventor. I'll make a new file. So the first time I click Save, because now that we have more than one numbering scheme, I have to choose which one I want to use. So in this case, I want to use the smart number. And then we have an option to use the predefined dropdown, and the dropdown will show us what the number is along with the description so that we make sure that we're grabbing the right smart number. And it's good to know that this is going to start at 0. And so if I use, let's say, this prefix, this first one's going to be all zeros. Sure, I'll check it in. And then I'll make another one here in a moment. And so the numbering, the auto number feature, so if I do 0, 0 again, this one, it's going to be, we're going to get 1. But if I were to now use the other dropdown, a different pre-number, because we haven't used 0, 0, 1 yet, then we're going to get all 4 zeros. And so this works great because it basically auto numbers as they're being used. And as we can see, as soon as I click save, we've used the number, whether, like if I change my mind and I don't check in these files, then essentially those numbers are burned. We're not going to, the auto numbering scheme isn't going to re-give them out, even though they didn't go into Vault. When using the auto numbering scheme, it's important to do some pre-planning, because as we can see, if I want to come back here and add another prefix code, let's say 003, because I've used this numbering scheme already, I can't add to it. And so it's important to pre-plan. And if you're not 100% sure, the way that I recommend using is, because since we can't edit this, what I find a lot of people use is that you make a numbering scheme where we have pre-make basically a different numbering scheme for each one of those drop-downs. And then that way, if we ever need to add another one, we can with a lot more ease. Let's see, so now we're essentially got the same thing. And it takes a little bit of time because there's no duplicate, so you have to come in here and just add them. So 001, 001. But the nice thing about doing it this way is that we can add the other one, that if we needed another one later down the line, we can. So that's one of the limitations, is that once you use a numbering scheme, you can't edit it. So if you're going to combine and use the drop-down list, you got to do a lot of planning, or you can come in here and make something like this. So we'll get rid of this one. We don't need that one anymore. And then that way, later on, if I needed an 02, an 03, an 04, then it's easier to expand. So if I save the file, and then it's important to also kind of, if we're going to go this route, to make sure that we make it obvious what the name of the scheme is, because so that we know which prefix we're getting. And so there's a lot of power in creating numbering schemes. We can also, if we don't want a numbering scheme, we can just skip it, and then we can basically use whatever number we want. So to summarize, it's important to plan, figure out if you're going to use smart numbers, and if you're going to use smart numbers, to figure out how many prefixes you need, what do they mean, and then it's a good idea that when you're creating them, to pick a name that makes sense, that matches the prefix, so that then users are creating the right ones. And if you combine them all into one list with a predefined drop-down list like we saw before, that you pre-plan, because once you use it, you can't go back and modify it. And so it's good to think about how will your smart numbers grow over time. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just good planning. And I've seen basically customers go in one of two ways. You either use this first one where you essentially get what's referred to as an auto number or dem number, a file name with no meaning, and you leverage metadata inside of Inventor in terms of description or other properties so that you can easily sort and find what you want. Or you can create a smart numbering scheme and really kind of fine-tune prefixes that match and have value. So like a prefix for assemblies, a prefix for parts. I've even seen companies do like prefixes of, like on an airplane, like a prefix where, that part is in the front half of the airplane or the back half of the airplane or the front half of an engine versus the back half of the engine. Like you can add all kinds of smart information to a part number. The importance is taking the time to research and really get very crystal clear about what does that number mean and make sure everyone knows what the smart number is. Because the last thing you want is a smart number that only helps one person in the organization. So that's things to think about. And it's worth testing your numbering schemes, because I can always come in here, I can delete a numbering scheme and I can remake it. But when I remake a numbering scheme, I need to make sure that I'm not going to generate a number that's already been created. Because as we know in Vault, there's this feature that everyone should have on, which is, that it stops enforce unique file names. Because the last thing you want is the same file in Vault 4 times, or different files using the same name. Because one of the benefits of Vault is being able to reuse content, and the easiest way to reuse content is to be able to find what you want. So having a unique file name for every file in your Vault really helps with being able to find and reuse content.